Thank you very much for the kind invitation, and thanks everyone for having joined us in this very fruitful day of very deep reflections and thoughts. Very difficult to, as in the morning you were greeted by our rectors, but this was planned. In this afternoon, evening session, perhaps by coincidence, but equally together, both institutions with Reverend Christian Vince from the Pashman Peter, to your other host to this event. We're together joining, I guess, in thanking you for being here. It's also difficult to summarize, and I guess you have all of you have this beautiful booklet with the summaries, official summaries, we can say that, and hopefully we will have a beautiful publication with the deep reflections that we have heard today. I will not try to summarize, that would be very unjust with everyone on the brilliant presentations and nuances. But I would like to give some very few final thoughts on what we have heard today. And I guess, first of all, I would like to wish that for all of you, our guests, and the table, and with us in the public, that come from lands where there's violence, armed violence, I wish that armed violence, and in that sense, a very narrow understanding of peace, comes soon to your lands. And of course, that a just peace, a broader sense of peace, ensues quickly. And then we are left with the big question on what is this just and fair peace. I guess there was plenty of discussions, but very difficult to reach a conclusion. At least a programmatic conclusion, but I guess that was not the aim of and will never be the aim of any reflection about it. We know that the doctrine of just war, as well as a doctrine, if we want to say a doctrine of just peace, both are irreducible. We cannot reduce them to, as we were presented today, to a list of a grocery list, as if we fulfill this, then is a just war, and if we fulfill that, then it's just peace. So I guess it is in order to say that we shall not be afraid, beginning of not being afraid to our own freedom, to comprehend all the factors of reality, consider them fully, and exactly as we heard with Dr. Brown in the last intervention, a call to the prudencia, a call to practical reasonableness, because neither just war or just peace are a list of to-dos that we will easily fulfill. It's complex, as reality is complex. So we need to exercise our full judgment and prudential judgment and practical reasonableness in depth in each circumstance, in each historical moment, in each place, to understand what is required of us. Of course, the Christian tradition will always, in these topics, will be, as we heard in the morning, countercultural, and in that sense, radical, revolutionary, and in this same sense, a utopia, yet not an unrealizable utopia, because that would be an empty promise, and we are not about an empty promise. For us, I would say this brings us to, I would narrow down these reflections to what does this mean in the quest for a just peace and a doctrine of just war, to what does this mean for universities and for state institutions, for the public service in our countries? I would say that we shall continue our endeavors in the humanities, social sciences, and without forgetting the sacred sciences, as His Eminency referred to them, in the reflection of a comprehensive moral scheme of theology, moral, anthropological, ethics, politics, and law. And I think we continue to do this, and it's very present, at least in the environment here in Hungary, and that is an advantage it's a privileged place to conduct this type of debates in comparison to other countries, other places, because it's this discussion on a comprehensive moral scheme is present. So to the attentive observer, we have such a thing as a discussion of a comprehensive moral scheme. And in the morning we were given a very, to me, a slap in the face of a good summary of this is to bear witness. It's not something programmatic, but it's something personal, a personal invitation to bear witness, and knowing that bearing this witness of love is costly. We witness to love, to truth, to justice, to beauty, which is to witness to the love of God and the love of the neighbor. And as well reflected in the morning discussions too, we heard that the absence of the love of neighbor, far from being abstract and theoretical, leads to this post-traumatic distress, for example, that then empties ourselves from love to our very own existence, and put us in a perpetual sense of distress, perhaps. But further, this reflection of a comprehensive moral scheme needs to enter into a dialogue with mainstream scholarship and politics that are a little bit far away from the mark. It is for us a challenge to give also concreteness to the field, to the hard sciences too, to the military sciences in the case of this university, to energy, to when we explore economics. This is not just for theoretical reflection, but as universities, we must strive to bring these conclusions to practice, to bear to practice and recommendation. There is a challenge here also of participation for us, of inviting to a dialogue and friendship to those that do not adhere or don't see the value of adhering in a comprehensive moral scheme. And that invitation is not only going to be an invitation to talk about it and to sit down until I convince you, because that is not dialogue. Dialogue will happen when we witness to the beauty and justice of such a comprehensive moral theory that invites by itself to adhere. Then what is it for the state at stake? I would say that definitely it is not to transform lives, but to construct perhaps imperfect plans and programs. As Pope Benedict XVI used to remind us in his encyclicals, justice is inseparable, but not an alternative to charity. We must strive for justice, and that is the role of the state. But at the same time, the role of the state is not to obstruct the church, synods, the national councils of bishops, parishes, and grant the freedom for religion, the freedom for expression, thought, freedom at large, even when it becomes uncomfortable. By nature, that requires constraint in the exercise of power and authority, of national and supranational power and authority. It is more, we heard this morning how it is more important to start processes than to occupy spaces, which is a big temptation. Yet occupying spaces is also important. It's part of political participation, it's part of involvement, it's part of bearing witness, giving witness. To be involved in government is important. to be part of the public administration is important and is perhaps the only way to bear witness to truth, beauty, and justice in a way that is relevant and transformative at large. In that sense, it is important to institutionalize those processes. But we shall not confuse institutionalization of processes with making them state-owned or state-run or legally or constitutionally embedded. We don't want the omnipresence of the Constitution, as some constitutional theories call for. We want the state to have its right participation and the protection for the rule of law, for the basic freedom that we deserve, because only us, in our families, in our churches, can love, can embrace the wounded, can hear and avoid conflict. In this sense, yes, occupy to institutionalize would mean sometimes to teach and train authority and public service, to abstain from intervention and to allow to flourish, which is also a very important part of the principle of subsidiarity, as much as intervening when in need for the poor and for avoiding violence and conflict. Dear friends, this is your house. Whenever you want to have such deep discussions in freedom and in depth, this University of Public Service will always welcome you. Foreigners and nationals, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I wish you all the best for the remaining of the afternoon and your endeavors. Thank you very much.